My wife texted, "I've filed for divorce. Don't bother coming home." So I didn't. Instead, I sent her a photo of the house with a "for sale" sign out front. Turns out, she forgot it was in my name. I, 34M, was halfway through a business trip in Portland when my phone buzzed with a text that would change everything. The message was from my wife, and it was short, cold, and final. She told me she had filed for divorce and that I shouldn't bother coming home. No explanation, no warning, just those two sentences that felt like a punch to the gut. We had been married for 8 years, and while things hadn't been perfect lately, I never saw this coming. I sat there in my hotel room, staring at that text, trying to make sense of it. My mind raced through the past few months, searching for signs I might have missed. Sure, she had been distant, spending more time with her friends and less time with me, but I chalked it up to stress from her job. I tried calling her immediately, but she didn't pick up. I sent several messages asking what was going on, but they all went unanswered. The next morning, I cut my trip short and headed to the airport. During the entire flight back, I kept replaying our last conversation before I left. She had seemed normal, even kissed me goodbye. Nothing indicated that she was planning to blow up our marriage while I was away. When I landed, I checked my phone again. Still nothing from her, but I had a missed call from my brother. I called him back, and he told me something that made my blood run cold. He had seen my wife at a restaurant 2 nights ago with another man, and they weren't just having a friendly dinner. They were holding hands across the table, laughing intimately, acting like a couple. I felt sick. Everything suddenly made sense. The distance, the late nights she claimed were work-related, the way she had been guarding her phone. I had been such a fool. But what hurt even more was the way she had done this, texting me while I was out of town, not even having the decency to tell me to my face. I drove past our house instead of stopping. Her car was in the driveway, along with an unfamiliar truck. I didn't need to see any more. I checked into a hotel and started making calls. The first call was to a divorce attorney my colleague had recommended. She squeezed me in that afternoon, and I explained everything that had happened. She asked me about our assets, and that's when I remembered something important. The house, the one we had lived in for the past 7 years, was solely in my name. I had bought it 2 years before we got married with money from an inheritance, and when we got married, she never asked to be added to the deed. We had talked about it once, but then life got busy, and it never happened. The attorney's eyes lit up when I told her this. She explained that while marital assets would still be split, the house was technically my separate property since it was purchased before the marriage and remained in my name alone. I asked her how quickly we could move on this. She told me she would file a response to the divorce petition immediately and that I had options. That's when the idea hit me. If she wanted to play games, if she wanted to blindside me and kick me out of my own home through a text message, then I could play too. I spent the rest of that day making arrangements. I contacted a real estate agent I knew from the gym, explained my situation, and asked if she could help me with something unusual. She was hesitant at first, but when I explained what I wanted to do, she agreed. The next morning, I drove to the house early, knowing my wife would be at work. I let myself in and started packing my important belongings, documents, family heirlooms, anything that mattered to me. I worked quickly and efficiently, loading everything into a storage unit I had rented. Then I met the real estate agent at the house. She brought a professional photographer, and within 2 hours, we had the listing ready. She even brought a physical for sale sign that we planted right in the front yard. I stood there looking at that sign, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. This had been our home, the place where we had built our life together. But she had destroyed that with her betrayal and her cowardice. I took a photo of the house with the sign prominently displayed and sent it to her with a simple message. I told her that since she said not to come home, I was selling it. I added that I hoped she and her boyfriend had found somewhere else to stay because the new owners would want vacant possession. My phone exploded within minutes. She called me over and over, but I didn't answer. The texts came flooding in, each one more panicked than the last. She demanded to know what I was doing, claimed I couldn't sell the house, threatened to call the police. I finally responded and told her to check the deed. I explained that the house was in my name only, purchased before our marriage, and that I had every legal right to sell it. I suggested she contact her attorney if she had questions. The real estate agent listed the property that afternoon. The market in our area was hot, and she priced it competitively. Within 24 hours, we had 3 showings scheduled. My wife showed up at my hotel that evening. The front desk called my room to tell me someone was there to see me, but I told them I wasn't available. She waited in the lobby for an hour before finally leaving. She sent me a long message that night, alternating between begging and threatening. She said I was being cruel, that I was trying to leave her homeless, that she would fight this in court. I responded calmly and told her that she was the one who filed for divorce. She was the one who told me not to come home, and she was the one who had been cheating. I added that I was simply taking her at her word and moving on with my life. If she needed somewhere to stay, perhaps her boyfriend could help her out. The messages stopped after that. The attorney called me 2 days later with interesting news. My wife's lawyer had reached out, wanting to negotiate. Apparently, my wife had assumed that because we were married, she had rights to the house regardless of whose name was on the deed. Her attorney had to explain that wasn't how it worked, especially since I had purchased it before the marriage with separate funds. They wanted to talk about a settlement. I told my attorney I wasn't interested in talking until I understood the full scope of her betrayal. I hired a private investigator, something I never thought I would do in my life. Within a week, he had compiled a comprehensive report. The other man was someone she worked with, and their affair had been going on for at least 6 months. There were photos of them together at various hotels, restaurants, even a weekend trip they took while I thought she was at a conference. The investigator also found something else interesting. She had been moving money out of our joint accounts into a personal account I didn't know about, small amounts at a time, but it added up to almost $20,000. I provided all of this information to my attorney. She filed an amended response to the divorce petition, including evidence of adultery and financial misconduct. In our state, while we had no-fault divorce, evidence of an affair could still impact the division of marital assets, especially when combined with financial dishonesty. My attorney was confident we had a strong case. The house sold faster than I expected. A young couple fell in love with it and made a full-price offer with a quick closing date. I accepted immediately. My wife lost her mind when she found out. She filed an emergency motion to stop the sale, claiming it was marital property. The judge reviewed the case and denied her motion. The deed was clear, the purchase date was documented, and I had bank records showing the inheritance money used for the down payment. The judge told her attorney that she should have thought about these things before filing for divorce. The closing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. During that time, I had the locks changed on the house since I was still the legal owner, and she had been behaving erratically. I sent her a certified letter informing her that she had 1 week to remove any personal belongings she wanted to keep, and that anything left after that date would be considered abandoned. She showed up with the boyfriend and a moving truck. I wasn't there, but my attorney was, along with an off-duty police officer I had hired to keep the peace. According to my attorney, it was quite a scene. My wife was crying. The boyfriend was trying to act tough, and they kept arguing about what belonged to whom. My attorney calmly explained that she could take her personal clothing, jewelry, and any items she could prove were gifts to her specifically. Everything else stayed. The furniture, the appliances, the decorations we had bought together, all of it was staying with the house as part of the sale. The boyfriend apparently tried to argue, but the police officer shut that down quickly. They left with her clothes and not much else. Update 1. The divorce proceedings moved forward. My attorney filed for dissolution on grounds of adultery and requested that I receive a favorable division of marital assets due to her infidelity and financial misconduct. Her attorney tried to argue that I was being vindictive, that the house sale was retaliatory, but my attorney shut that down. She pointed out that my wife had initiated the divorce, had told me not to come home, and had given me every reason to believe the marriage was over. I had simply acted accordingly. Discovery was brutal for her. We subpoenaed her phone records, email accounts, and bank statements. Everything came out. The affair had started at a work conference, and she had been planning to leave me for months. The money she had been hiding was apparently going to be her escape fund. What she hadn't planned on was me actually leaving first and taking the house with me. Her parents reached out to me during this time. They had always liked me, and they were devastated by what their daughter had done. Her father called me and apologized. He said he had raised her better than this, and that he was ashamed of her behavior. He didn't ask me to take her back or go easy on her. He just wanted me to know that they didn't support what she had done. I appreciated that more than he knew. At least someone in her family had integrity. The house closed on schedule. After paying off the remaining mortgage, closing costs, and my attorney's retainer, I walked away with a significant amount of money. I put most of it into investments and started looking for a fresh start. I had already accepted a job transfer to a different city, something I had been considering even before all this happened. Now it felt like perfect timing. The boyfriend situation imploded on its own. According to mutual friends, once he realized my wife had no house and limited assets, he suddenly became less interested in playing house with her. They broke up about 6 weeks after the house sold. She had to move in with her parents, which according to those same friends was a disaster. Her father barely spoke to her, disappointed in the choices she had made. The final divorce hearing was almost anticlimactic. We had reached a settlement before going to trial. She got half of our retirement accounts and her car. I kept my car, my retirement accounts, and all proceeds from the house sale. She also had to pay back the $20,000 she had hidden, though my attorney and I knew we would probably never see most of it. The judge signed off on everything, and just like that, 8 years of marriage were over. I saw her one last time after the final hearing. She looked tired and older somehow. She approached me in the hallway outside the courtroom and tried to talk to me. She said she was sorry, that she had made terrible mistakes, and that she never meant for things to end like this. I looked at her and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. I told her that she had made her choices and now she had to live with the consequences. She had wanted the divorce, had texted me not to come home, and I had simply taken her at her word. Everything that happened after that was just the natural result of her own actions. She started crying and said she never thought I would actually leave, never thought I would sell the house, never imagined I would move on so quickly. I told her that was her mistake. She had assumed I would sit around waiting for her, that I would fight for a marriage she had already destroyed, that I would give her the satisfaction of being the victim. Instead, I had simply walked away and built a new life. I turned and left her standing there in that hallway, and I never looked back. Update 2. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was settled into my new city and my new job. I had bought a small condo downtown, nothing fancy, but mine alone. I started dating someone new, a woman I met through work who had no connection to my past. She knew I was divorced but didn't know the details, and I preferred it that way. I was focused on moving forward, not dwelling on what had been. My ex-wife tried to reach out a few times through mutual friends. She had apparently broken up with the boyfriend shortly after he learned about her financial situation, just as I had heard. According to one friend who still talked to both of us, she was struggling. She had moved back in with her parents after briefly trying to live on her own, but the rent in our city was too high for what she made. Her relationship with her father was strained because he blamed her for destroying a good marriage. She had asked about me, wanted to know if I would consider talking to her. I told our mutual friend to pass along a message. I wished her well and hoped she found happiness, but I had no interest in reopening old wounds. That chapter of my life was closed. Our friend reported back that she hadn't taken it well, but I didn't let it bother me. I had learned an important lesson through all of this. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. She had shown me that she was capable of betrayal, deception, and cowardice. I had no reason to invite that back into my life. The real estate agent who had helped me sell the house became a good friend. She told me months later that she had been impressed by how I handled everything. She said most people in my situation would have let emotion take over, would have made rash decisions they regretted later. Instead, I had been strategic and calm, making choices that protected my interests while staying within legal boundaries. She said it was a masterclass in how to handle a bad situation. I ran into my ex-brother-in-law about a year after everything ended. He was the one who had seen her at the restaurant with the other man and called to tell me. He apologized for being the bearer of bad news, but I thanked him. I told him that he had done me a favor by not letting me stay in the dark. He said his sister had made terrible choices and that the whole family was still dealing with the fallout. He mentioned that she had finally gotten her own apartment again and was seeing a therapist, trying to work through her issues. I told him I was glad she was getting help, but that it wasn't my concern anymore. Looking back on everything, I realized that the moment I received that text was actually a gift, even though it didn't feel like it at the time. She had freed me from a marriage that was built on lies. Yes, the way she did it was cruel and cowardly, but it forced me to see the truth. If she had done it differently, if she had sat me down and talked to me, I might have tried to work things out. I might have gone to counseling, tried to fix what was broken, but there was nothing to fix. She had checked out of our marriage months before and had just been too much of a coward to tell me. The house sale, which she saw as my revenge, was really just me being practical. She told me not to come home, so I didn't. She filed for divorce, so I started protecting my assets. She wanted out of the marriage, so I helped her get out by removing myself from the situation completely. Everything I did was a direct response to her actions. I didn't chase her, didn't beg her to come back, didn't make a scene. I just quietly dismantled the life we had built and moved on. The photo I sent her of the for sale sign was the only moment where I let emotion guide me, and even that was calculated. I wanted her to understand that actions have consequences. She thought she could control the narrative, could file for divorce while I was out of town, and set the terms. Instead, I took control of the one thing that mattered most to her, the house, and showed her that she had made a critical mistake. The look on her face during our final encounter told me she had learned that lesson, but by then it was far too late. I've been asked by friends if I regret how I handled things, if I wish I had done it differently. The answer is no. Could I have been more generous in the divorce settlement? Maybe. Could I have tried to work things out when I first got that text? Probably. But why would I? She had betrayed me, lied to me, and dismissed me with a text message. She had been planning her exit for months while I was oblivious. She had stolen money and hidden it, preparing for her new life while pretending everything was fine. People like that don't deserve second chances or gentle treatment. The new relationship I'm in now is different. It's built on honesty and communication, two things my marriage had been missing. We talk about everything, even the uncomfortable stuff. She knows my story and hasn't judged me for how I handled my divorce. She said she probably would have done the same thing if someone had treated her that way. It's refreshing to be with someone who understands that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who don't value you. My career has flourished since the move. Without the stress of a failing marriage hanging over me, I've been able to focus on my work in ways I couldn't before. I got promoted twice in the past year and have been given opportunities one never would have gotten in my old city. Sometimes I wonder if I would have stayed stuck in that job, in that life, if she hadn't blown everything up. In a strange way, her betrayal forced me to make changes I needed to make, but was too comfortable to attempt on my own. The final irony is that she recently reached out through social media. She had apparently heard through mutual friends that I was doing well, and she wanted to congratulate me. The message was friendly on the surface, but felt calculated. She mentioned that she had been doing a lot of thinking about our relationship and the mistakes she made. She said she understood now what she had lost, and hoped we could at least be civil if we ever ran into each other. I read the message and deleted it without responding. There was nothing left to say. I shared this story because I think there are lessons here for anyone going through something similar. First, protect yourself legally and financially as soon as trouble starts. I was lucky that the house was in my name, but even if it hadn't been, I would have documented everything and consulted an attorney immediately. Second, don't let emotions make your decisions for you. I was hurt, angry, and betrayed, but I channeled those feelings into productive action rather than destructive behavior. Third, trust your instincts. If something feels off in your relationship, it probably is. Don't ignore the signs just because it's easier than confronting the truth. Most importantly, know your worth. I could have begged her to come back, could have tried to compete with the other man, could have accepted being treated like garbage just to keep the marriage intact. But I didn't, because I knew I deserved better. Everyone deserves better than being blindsided with a divorce text and told not to come home. The moment she sent that message, she gave up any right to expect consideration or mercy from me. I gave her exactly what she asked for, nothing more and nothing less. Today, I'm in a better place than I ever was during my marriage. I'm happier, more successful, and surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. The house is gone, the marriage is over, and the pain has faded into something more like distant memory. When I think about that text message now, I don't feel anger or sadness. I feel grateful. Grateful that she showed me who she really was before I wasted any more years. Grateful that I had the resources and clarity to extract myself cleanly. Grateful that I trusted myself enough to know when it was time to walk away and never look back. She wanted a divorce, so I gave her one. She told me not to come home, so I didn't. She forgot the house was in my name, and that mistake cost her everything. Some people might think I was cruel, but I was just protecting myself from someone who had already proven they would hurt me without a second thought. In the end, she got exactly what she deserved, and so did I. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.